designee for Dr. Robert Goldstein, Commissioner of the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. And also Commissioner O'Shea is on the screen as well. Additionally, we have Andy Green, the Director of the Siting Board, here at the bench, who will be serving as the Zoom meeting host. We have 2 items on the agenda for today. First, consideration of the tentative decision in EFSB 23-02-DPU 23-45 regarding National Grid's proposed new double-circuit overhead transmission line in existing right-of-way in Warwick, Royalston, Windinshire, Gardner, Westminster, Fitchburg, how do you pronounce it? Leominster, thank you, and Sterling, and 2 associated tap lines in Athol, Royalston, and Gardner. The new line will replace 47 miles of existing 69 kilovolt double circuit overhead transmission lines and will be capable of operating at 115 kV. This project is commonly referred to as the A1-B2 transmission line replacement, which refer to the existing line number designation used by National Grid. Second, the Siting Board staff will provide an update on EFSB 25-10, that is implementation activities regarding the new EFSB siting regulations and guidance pursuant to the 2024 Climate Act. So we're going to start with agenda item number 1, the tentative decision for EFSB 23-02, DPU 23-45, National Grid's A1-B2 line. As I mentioned, our first agenda item is that, and the presiding officer will describe the project in further detail. Do we really need to do that? All right. Siting Board provide notice of today's meeting to the service list for this proceeding. The notice was also posted on the Siting Board's website. In addition, notice of this board meeting was provided under the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law, consistent with the board's language access policy. The tentative decision was translated into Spanish when distributed for comment on May 22nd. The sequence for this portion of the meeting is as follows. We will listen to comments from public officials. Then the Siting Board's presiding officer will make a presentation. Are we really doing it that way? Okay. And then the Siting Board's presiding officer will make that presentation, followed by comments from the company. Finally, we will listen to comments from the public. The board will then begin its deliberation on the tentative decision, consider possible amendments to the tentative decision, and finally vote on the tentative decision. A stenographer is present today to transcribe everything said to make an official record of this meeting. Unlike what I'm doing right now, because he has a script for me, so I can talk fast, everyone should speak slowly and clearly and allow the prior speaker to finish before you begin speaking. These procedures will help ensure an accurate transcript. So can I begin by asking if there are any elected or appointed officials here on Zoom that would like to speak regarding the tentative decision? So that would be federal officials, state officials, local officials.
Please raise your hand if you're on Zoom so we can see you.
Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the presentation by the presiding officer. Officer Tar.
Morning. Make sure everyone can hear me. And I am projecting. Good morning, Chair Tepper and members of the Siting Board. My name is Connor Tar. I am the presiding officer in this matter. I am here to present the tentative decision regarding the A1-B2 asset condition refurbishment project and the staff's proposed amendment sheet, and to answer any questions you may have regarding this proceeding. With me here today are other members of the Siting Board staff who have worked on the case. Andrew Green, Siting Board Director, Joan Foster Evans, General Counsel to the Siting Board, Wayne Wong, the Assistant Director of the Siting Board, and Jonathan Wangesha, Nathaniel Strasberg, Brian Wilmer, analysts for the Siting Board staff. This proceeding is a consolidation of 2 petitions filed by New England Power Company, doing business as National Grid, or referred to as the company, on May 1st, 2023. One of these petitions was filed with the Siting Board General Laws, Chapter 164, Section 69J, and the other was filed with the Department of Public Utilities, General Laws, Chapter 164, Section 72. Both petitions were consolidated by order of the department chair and referred to the citing board for adjudication. No additional parties requested to participate in this proceeding. Now for a description of the project. The complete A1B2 asset condition refurbishment project, which I'll refer to as the project, encompasses portions in New Hampshire, Vermont, and Massachusetts, totaling approximately 54.2 miles. The existing A1B2 transmission line is the oldest transmission line in New England. The company has proposed to replace the approximately 47 miles of existing 69 kilovolt double circuit overhead transmission lines in Massachusetts, referred to as the existing lines, with lines capable of operating at 115 kilovolts, referred to as the new lines, along an existing company-managed right-of-way and two smaller associated tap lines. The existing lines pass through the municipalities of Warwick, Royalston, Winchton, Gardner, Westminster, Fitchburg, Leominster, and Sterling, and the associated taps pass through Athol, Royalston, and Gardner. The company would replace 575 steel double-circuit lattice tower structures with weathering steel double-circuit davit arm monopole structures for the new lines. The company also proposed to replace the two smaller transmission tap lines and associated structures that feed into the corridor. One, a line connecting the Royalston switching station to the Chestnut Hill substation, and two, a line connecting the Gardner switching station to the Crystal Lake substation. Again, the tap lines. National Grid will replace 158 wood pole single circuit structures with steel pole single circuit structures. The Massachusetts portion of the project is expected to cost approximately $414.7 million in 2024 dollars. ISO New England has indicated that these costs would be recovered on its regional network tariff from all customers in New England, not just customers in Massachusetts. Now for some additional background. The companies filed their petitions requesting authority to construct the transmission lines on May 1st, 2023. The citing board docketed the Section 69J petition as EFSB 2302, and the department docketed the Section 72 petition as D.P.U 2345. On October 4th, 2023, the citing board consolidated the department petition with the EFSB petition as one proceeding. The company's Section 72 petition in this proceeding was filed before the effective date of the 2024 Climate Act and the Act's changes to Section 72. The new regulations implementing the consolidated permit program apply to projects filed on July 1st, 2026 and after, and therefore do not apply to this project. See C980 CMR 13.0. This project consists of transmission lines over which the citing board has continued jurisdiction under General Laws, Chapter 164, Section 69J. The citing board retains the obligation under Sections 69H and 69J to ensure that this project is needed, that it minimizes costs, and that it minimizes and mitigates environmental impacts, subjectively fulfilling the scope of Section 72 review. Given the change in the scope of Section 72 and the citing board's continued jurisdiction over the project under General Laws, Chapter 164, Section 69J, the tentative decision concludes that it is not necessary to make separate findings under Section 72 for this project. Next, we'll turn towards need for this project. The citing board reviews the need for proposed transmission facilities to meet reliability, economic efficiency, and environmental objectives. Specifically, to determine whether system improvements are needed, the citing board, 1, examines the reasonableness of the petitioner's system reliability planning criteria. 2, determines whether the petitioner uses reviewable and appropriate methods for assessing system reliability over time based on system modeling analyses and other valid reliability indicators. And 3, determines whether the relevant transmission and distribution systems need these or meet these reliability criteria over time under normal conditions and under certain contingencies, given existing and projected loads. The century-old existing lines are obsolete and in deteriorated condition, suffer from demonstrated poor performance, and cannot be resolved through National Grid's normal maintenance and repairs, and are not adequate for interconnecting additional distributed energy resources that would support the Commonwealth's clean energy objectives. The tentative decision finds that the existing lines are inadequate to meet applicable reliability standards and require a solution, whether a replacement or other means of providing necessary system resources. Next, we'll turn towards project alternatives. The siting board reviews whether the proposed project is superior to alternative approaches in terms of cost, environmental impact, and ability to meet the identified need. The board also considers reliability in reviewing alternative project approaches. The company analyzed and developed multiple alternatives, including 1, a no-build alternative, 2, non-wires alternative, 3, critical asset repair alternative, 4, reconductoring and repair of the existing lines, and 5, transmission alternatives, indicating a 64 kilovolt and 115 kilovolt rebuild option. The tentative decision finds that the only feasible solution to the identified need requires replacement of the existing lines and structures, as no other alternatives considered by the company address the root cause of the poor performance. Either the 69 kilovolt or the 115 kilovolt option would provide the necessary change in structure configuration, increase in phase spacing, and introduce the use of monopole structures to ensure reliability on the new lines and are superior solutions. Although 115 kilovolt operation is not needed immediately, the added cost difference of the 115 kilovolt option would equal about 1.5% of the project budget, approximately $5 million, and require increasing structure heights by only 5.5 feet above a 69 kilovolt rebuild option. The 115 kilovolt structures and the 69 kilovolt structures both use the same conductors and shield wire, with no difference in cost. The tentative decision finds that the 115 kilovolt rebuild is a cost-effective investment in comparison with potentially needing to rebuild the existing lines again in the future. The tentative decision finds that the 115 kilovolt design solution is appropriate, and the record shows no project alternative would be superior to the proposed project. Next, we'll turn towards route selection. The siting board requires an applicant to demonstrate that it has considered a reasonable range of practical siting alternatives and that its proposed facilities are sited in locations that minimize cost and environmental impacts while ensuring a reliable energy supply. Tentative decision finds that the company considered a reasonable range of practical siting alternatives and that the A1-B2 line replacement in the existing right-of-way minimizes cost and environmental impacts while ensuring a reliable energy supply. Regarding geographic diversity among route alternatives, since 12 Massachusetts cities are dependent on the A1-B2 lines for electric service, any feasible alternative route must continue to serve the existing substations along the existing lines right away. And due to these constraints, tentative decision finds that routes with significant geographic diversity would not meet the project need. Therefore, the tentative decision finds that the company's decision not to propose a noticed alternative route is reasonable. Its proposed facilities are sited in locations that minimize cost and environmental impacts while ensuring a reliable electric supply. And lastly, we'll turn towards project impacts. The tentative decision is detailed and comprehensive and covers many issues. I'd like to focus my remarks on a few key issues, including land-based resources, specifically tree removal, listed species, and impacts to historic and cultural resources. And 2, cost. Finally, I'll present staff's proposed amendment sheet. The siting board requires a petitioner to show that its proposed facility minimizes cost and environmental impacts while ensuring a reliable energy supply pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 164, Sections 69H and 69J. The siting board first determines whether the petitioner has provided sufficient information regarding environmental impacts and potential mitigation measures to enable the siting board to make such a determination. The siting board then examines the environmental impacts of the proposed facility and determines 1, whether the environmental impacts would be minimized, and 2, whether an appropriate balance would be achieved among conflicting environmental impacts, as well as among environmental impacts, cost, and reliability. First, we'll turn towards land-based resources and specifically tree removal. The tentative decision shows that the project would require tree removal to maintain required clearances between vegetation and transmission line structures and conductors for reliable operation of the transmission facilities. The project would remove approximately 100 acres of trees within the right-of-way and 31 acres in off right-of-way access routes with prior easements. Project would expand existing cleared areas from an average existing width of 85 feet to a proposed 100-foot width, with similar increases in the cleared width of the Athol and Crystal Lake tap lines right away. While construction would occur almost entirely in existing right-of-ways and historically utilized access routes, some activity would occur on state forest lands owned by Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation, referred to as DCR, specifically within Warwick State Forest for off right-of-way access route construction. The company obtained a construction access permit from DCR for its proposed off right-of-way access improvements. Construction would also occur within the habitat of 9 state-listed species and possibly 4 federally listed species. The 9 state-listed species include 2 reptiles, 1 amphibian, 2 invertebrates, 3 birds, and 1 plant. The 4 federally listed species include a threatened mammal, candidate insect, endangered plant, and threatened plant. To minimize impacts to state-listed species, the company would observe time of year construction restrictions, conduct contractor training, as well as deploy a natural heritage and endangered species program approved monitor on-site in priority habitat mapped areas during construction. The company would limit work areas to the minimum size required for safe access and construction, collaborate with the National Heritage and Endangered Species Program during construction on mitigation for rare species. The National Heritage and Endangered Species Program issued a conservation and management permit in December of 2025, which authorized the take of both species on condition that the company meets associated performance standards, and that the company would collaborate with the National Heritage and Endangered Species Program during construction on mitigation for take of the wood turtle and a portion of the sand violet populations in the project area and meet associated performance standards of its National Heritage and Endangered Species Program conservation and management permit. The project right-of-ways and the area within 300 feet of the right-of-ways would not include areas of critical environmental concern. However, there are numerous archaeological sites in the project area, and the right-of-way passes through the Royalston Historic District. The company has already addressed the Royalston Historic District Commission request to relocate transmission line structures to mitigate visual impacts. The company has been coordinating with the United States Army Corps of Engineers and Massachusetts Historical Commission to mitigate impacts if required, and plans to avoid historic resources and develop procedures for handling discovery of unanticipated cultural or historic resources. The record shows that the project would cause a one-time loss of 11,199 metric tons of carbon due to tree removal, yielding a net 12,164 metric tons of cumulative reduction in carbon sequestration during project construction and over the following 3 decades. Project also demonstrates that the project developed in coordination with the DCR and the Mass Audubon, a targeted mitigation package that would offset a portion of direct carbon impacts. However, the far more significant carbon mitigation benefit that results in an overall cumulative net CO2 equivalent reduction profile for the project stems from the project improvement to electric grid reliability and resiliency, and its ability to help interconnect additional non-emitting electric generation and storage resources that are currently pending in the interconnection queue. The tentative decision finds that the project's tree removal impacts would be minimized with the following condition. Tentative decision directs the company to fulfill its carbon-related mitigation commitments with DCR and the Mass Audubon, and described in the record, and to submit a filing with the siting board within 90 days of project completion, documenting its compliance. With the company's mitigation measures and condition, the tentative decision finds that the impacts to land-based resources have been appropriately minimized. Lastly, we'll turn towards cost, then we'll get to any additional questions the board may have. Siting board reviews projects and determines whether they would provide a reliable energy supply for the Commonwealth with a minimum impact on the environment at the lowest possible cost. The company stated that the entire project would cost approximately $474.1 million, while the Massachusetts portion would cost approximately $414.7 million in 2024 dollars, with an assumed accuracy of its project estimated cost estimates of below 25% to plus 25%. The company noted that the total project cost allocation is approved by the ISO New England for regional recovery, though final costs and allocation will be based on the actual expenditures. The company reported that certain required project features increased costs relative to a routine single circuit transmission line rebuild, which would have been just the A1 transmission line, resulting in taller towers with large caisson and deep direct embedded foundations to allow for safe construction over existing power lines, additional labor, materials, and time associated with inclusion of a second circuit, the B2 transmission line, in the scope of work. Construction in areas requiring extensive and multiple layers of matting, as well as construction of access roads in remote locations, and removal and disposal of all existing towers in the right-of-way from primarily remote locations. Tentative decision did not find that any of the less expensive project alternatives would adequately meet the energy needs in the project area. The company stated that outside of projects assumed to be undertaken when needed in the future, switching from 69 kilovolts to 115 kilovolt operation would be limited to planning and crew time to operate the switch. The tentative decision finds the rather minor additional costs of building the project as a 115 kilovolt capable line, approximately $5 million, would be a reasonable expenditure given the expectation of growing loads due to increased development of clean, distributed energy resources and electrification trends. The tentative decision finds that the project as proposed would achieve an appropriate balance among environmental concerns, as well as environmental impacts, reliability, and cost. Lastly, we'll turn towards the staff amendment sheet. On May 29th, 2026, the company filed comments on the tentative decision and stated that it did not request any modifications to the tentative decision. There were however, some staff changes. The staff identified a few issues that would best be clarified and included in the amendment sheet. Staff added that the company provided supplementals to the record and admitted them as evidence. The amendments also include specifics on updates regarding current permitting for the project. The amendments indicate the National Heritage and Endangered Species Program issued a conservation and management permit in December 2025, which authorized the take of both species on condition that the company meets associated performance standards, and the company would collaborate with the National Heritage and Endangered Species Program during construction on mitigation for take of the wood turtle and portions of the sand violet populations in the project area and meet associated performance standards of its Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, conservation and management permit. And the company obtained a construction access permit from DCR for related work and would not need Article 97 legislation. Siting Board staff also corrected some minor typographical errors in the tentative decision. These corrections are not on the amendment sheet, but also corrections to citations that were made as well. The tentative decision finds that additional energy resources are needed to maintain a reliable supply of electricity. That the project is superior to the other alternatives identified with respect to providing a reliable energy supply for the Commonwealth with minimum impact on the environment at the lowest possible cost. That the company has demonstrated that it examined a reasonable range of practical siting alternatives, and that the proposed facilities are sited in locations that minimize cost and environmental impacts while ensuring a reliable supply. That the project along the proposed route in an existing right-of-way would achieve an appropriate balance among conflicting environmental concerns, as well as among environmental impacts, reliability, and cost. And lastly, that subject to the specified mitigation and conditions set forth in this decision, the company's plans for construction of the project are consistent with the current health, environmental protection, and resource use and development policies adopted by the Commonwealth. We would be happy to answer any questions that the board has at this time, now, or at a time later in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, why don't we see if there are any board questions for Mr. Tarr? Go ahead.
This is Patrick Field. Thanks for the thorough presentation and also the tentative decision. The detail of the written work was very good. I really have a question. This is partly new to this, but it seems to me the timeline from filing to actual decision is over 3 years. And that timeline concerns me given it's an existing right of way and the like. So I just want to understand better why that timeline took 3 years to get us to today.
And I guess I would add to that just as a little amendment. And what would happen if that project was filed today under the new EFSB regulations, and how would it move through the process? Maybe you guys could answer that. If this project was filed today, how would it work under our new siting law, permitting?
Well, the short answer is that the project, because of some of the backlog of other projects that we had been delayed due to other matters that were before the siting board at that time. Additionally, the introduction of the new regulations and statutes that we had drafted and been going before the board had delayed this process. Otherwise, it may have been resolved sooner. If this had been filed under the new statutes and regulations after July 1, if it had taken this long, the project would have resulted in a constructive approval if it had been this long. Likely resulting in what I would argue are probably very.
It would be finished in what time period? What does the statute require?
So if it had been filed under the new statute, it would be required to be completed within 15 months. So it would be a much shorter time period than this project.
Less than half the time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, Secretary.
Sorry, making that distinction.
Commissioner Mahoney?
Thanks. Unless Ms. Evans wanted to, okay. Can you remind us, given the timeline, when the record closed?
So the record closed when. Technically the record. So let me.
You don't have to give me an exact date. I'll ask my second question so that maybe it'll help. I'm looking at the cost numbers that you've provided today, even though ISO New England has approved them for recovery under the regional tariff, they are still outdated in 2024 dollars. So I'm wondering if we have an updated cost and if the board has an updated or the staff has an updated number. And I will ask that of the company as well.
So at this time, because of when the record closed, and I'm going to pull up the actual date and time.
Connor, maybe as a help, the company's brief was filed on October 24th, October 4th, 2024. So that, although there were some supplemental filings, as Connor said, that were received last month.
Thank you.
Commissioner, can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
I have several questions on cost as well, and I think it might be best to talk to the company about that. If you're all right with that.
That's fair. I was going to move on.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Thanks.
I'll still be available.
Thank you.
Okay. So, looking at the proposed conditions, obviously many of these are pretty standard for these types of projects. We've seen them before. We'll see them again. Especially for the first maybe 5 or 6, A through, maybe we'll just go A through E. Are there any changes to those perfunctory conditions that you think we need to be made aware of? Meaning, is there anything special in those conditions specific to this project?
No, there's no special conditions in the first A through E.
Okay. So then when I focus in on C, which is about construction community outreach plan, was there any contemplation about adding anything to that from the staff's perspective? I'm asking because this is a 100-year-old line. So the neighbors have grown up with it. But they also haven't probably maybe paid attention to it because it's always been there, but now there's going to be construction on it. So it's going to kind of like when a meteor enters the atmosphere and we don't notice until one day it makes a really loud boom and then we think, what's happening? There's going to be loud booms. And so the community is going to be made aware. So I'm just wondering the balancing of it's always been there, they're used to it, versus there's going to be construction, whether or not it's a helicopter or just trucks.
Shouldn't be any helicopters.
Well, I'm going to get to that one. Don't worry.
But, well, I know that when we went out and did the public comment hearings, specifically in Athol, there was other construction that was currently happening that I believe the members of the community saw the opportunity to speak directly to National Grid, not related to the project. And there were specific communications that were had by the company regarding essentially continued outreach regarding the company, as well as maintenance of the right-of-way and construction activities. So those were specifically addressed in real time. And then it is our assumption that they will be continued to address as it's actually made it into other decisions to maintain that level of awareness regarding the construction projects and contractor information. But as far as like additional conditions, I don't believe that we added any additional conditions as part of that for the community outreach as far as specifics. We did the community outreach that the company had demonstrated and provided seemed to be adequate for the construction of the project.
Thank you.
I will note, just because it's not in there, I was amazed at the project because these towers are actually ordered from a Sears and Roebuck catalog. So I will, that was just one thing that I took from the site visit. They are very, very
I want to see a photo of that.
May I just add one point too? We noted on page 4 of the TD that we had received some comments, received very few comments. There was not a lot of participation during the public comment hearings. We didn't have any intervention. And much of this is very remote. It's not necessarily going right through people's backyards type thing, what we've seen with other cases. So just some added information. No, I have one more, but go ahead.
Just one quick question. On F, you mentioned there should be no helicopters. Sorry, F as in Frank. You earlier noted that there shouldn't be helicopter use. But here, just in the off chance that it's used, the company will notify any residents within 300 feet of the right-of-way boundary. Why is 300? Is that standard language? 300 feet for a helicopter seems very small.
The company had indicated that they had done an assessment and determined that they were not going to be using helicopters. However, in the event that it did happen, we wanted to make sure that we had our bases covered so that, as indicated, this is a very remote location. So in order to actually get an idea of the actual right of way, they actually did a drone flyover to show us where it was, because a lot of points are not accessible just by driving. But it ended up being more standard language regarding the 300 feet. I don't know that I understand that 300 feet does seem fairly short for a helicopter, but I don't anticipate that it would be many butters to begin.
Thank you. I'll conclude now.
One quick question on the cost. So this is not a cost 2024 dollars, but on the cost, there's a Massachusetts portion and a total project portion. In the decision, it's $474 million and 414 or thereabouts. Is all of that 474 being sort of socialized across New England, or is there a portion for which Massachusetts ratepayers will be paying 100%?
My understanding is that the entire project would be over the New England.
Thank you.
I have one follow-up on the community outreach, but I think we'll do that when the company presents, if that's okay.
Sure, of course. Just a follow-up on that cost question. So it said the Massachusetts portion would cost approximately 414 million, right? And that the project cost is 474. So I just want to be clear that the regional nature of the whole project is going to be shared on the 474.
Yes,
There's nothing that's been specifically allocated to Massachusetts.
not that I've been informed.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just wondering whether we should change the sentence. It makes it sound like that Massachusetts is paying 414.
What page are you on?
Sorry, page 56. It's not clear whether you're talking about Massachusetts portion in terms of the amount of the transmission line or construction that's going to be in Massachusetts versus the amount that Massachusetts is actually going to pay. See what I'm saying? We can work on it later, but maybe the company could think about how we can revise that language to have it be more clear. Okay.
I believe we can find some language.
Great. Thank you. Other questions for staff? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Site Board.
Oh.
Sure.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Catherine Cuthan, and with my co-counsel Cheryl Blaine, I am representing New England Power Company, DBA National Grid in this proceeding. Can you hear me or no? Okay. Good morning, and siting board members and staff. Should I repeat my name or? Okay, good. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I want to thank the staff for the hard work throughout the proceeding, and we greatly appreciate their efforts in writing and developing this tentative decision. The tentative decision, which includes conditions that will ensure that any impacts associated with the project will be minimized to the extent possible, is a thorough and well-reasoned evaluation of the evidence and is consistent with siting board standards and precedent. Accordingly, National Grid strongly supports the tentative decision. Just to speak to the cost issue, if I could just provide a little bit of clarification. The company submitted a supplemental response to an information request, EFSB-C-3S2, which contained a letter from ISO confirming that costs would be regionalized. And the other point I just wanted to make to address questions that arose is that the company also provided a recent supplemental response providing its robust outreach plan. So with that, National Grid respectfully requests that the board adopt the tentative decision, including the staff's proposed amendments, as the final decision in this proceeding. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Go ahead.
I think just to follow up on the outreach question, I know you submitted the filing. If you could explain just briefly your outreach plan and ensuring that folks are notified ahead of time. There's some touch and feel to what they're going to see before they see it, just to ensure smooth sailing as you go forward.
Sure. The company has already engaged in fairly robust outreach plan, including virtual open houses and meetings, and has also done and will continue to do door-to-door outreach. This will be periodic outreach with respect to ongoing work that's being conducted in the area to abutting properties with regard to construction work, to access tree trimming. And they'll also specifically do prior to construction targeted door-to-door outreach. The company also has a project website which provides information, the schedule, and links to the public filings. And as well, there's a project hotline, and the company can also be reached through a project email. In addition, the company will continue to meet with municipal officials and other key stakeholders in the various towns to provide them briefings as appropriate. I think that the company is also providing outreach materials both in English and in Spanish.
Thank you.
And I think those are the sort of the key components of the outreach plan.
Was there a mailing or something that went out with all of that information? How would people find out about the website and the hotline and all that?
I believe that there have been to abutters in the past, and I think that there'll be door-to-door hangers or outreach specifically to abutters as construction proceeds.
Okay,
Company's
With that
nodding.
information.
I guess, am I right that as you are doing the work going down the line, you focus on the people who are going to be next?
Correct.
Correct. And you say, we're going to be in your neighborhood.
Within the next period of time.
Please call this to answer questions, right?
Have all that contact information. And the details of that more specifically are provided in a supplemental response that the company recently provided with the actual outreach plan.
Commissioner Mahoney.
Thanks. Are you aware, there was some discussion earlier about the remoteness of this line and the lack of maybe residential homes along, in close proximity to the line, but is the company aware, do you have a count of how many homes that you are aware of are are in close proximity to the work that's going to be done?
I don't have that figure available. I can check with my colleagues to see if anybody else here does, but I don't have that number available. But I do believe that, as stated, there are, although the length of the line, as you know, is very extensive, there are large portions of it with very, very few abutters, but it does go through some areas that are more. Do you want me to?
But am I correct that at the beginning of this proceeding, you would have had to provide notice to all of the people who abut the site? So that number is knowable?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have a list of, we provided notice prior to the public comment hearing to all abutters within 300 feet of the right of way. So we do have that number, but I don't have that available at my fingertips.
Do you have an updated cost? Well, maybe I'll save. I know
No, that's all right. Go
the
ahead.
chair has questions. I'll come back to that. Can you walk through us? It's detailed in the tentative decision, but can you just kind of give us some highlights on the mitigation efforts that you're under, your mitigation and minimization efforts, using our new terminology, that the company is using, given the tree clearing that is necessary and the work that you are conducting with DCR and Mass Audubon and others to mitigate those impacts? I know there's some work on with greening the gateway cities, $250,000 mitigation fee being paid, and additional plans to come. Didn't know if you wanted to update some highlights from the work that you've been contemplating to provide.
Sure. As you mentioned, the company will be providing $250,000 of compensatory mitigation. $100,000 of this is to Mass Audubon, and 100 and the remainder to DCR. 150,000 rather to DCR and 100,000 to Mass Audubon. Also, the company will be planting trees in EJ population areas, and it will be performing forest-based soil and vegetation restoration measures, as well as the compensatory mitigation.
Just a follow-up question to that. What is the enforcement mechanism for these commitments?
May I confer with?
Of course. There is a condition. I know that there's a condition in the order, but it's rare for the siting board. Wondering if there's any private enforcement options.
As a side note, I just want to address the board's request regarding the abutters. If you turn to page 42, that is documented in the tentative decision. Regarding the conditions, that would be part of the permit conditions for those permits. So separately through DCR and Mass Audubon.
Well, Mass Audubon, they wouldn't be getting any permits from, but I understand that. Yeah, sorry. They would not be getting any permits from Mass Audubon, but they would have to get easement, construction in the easement for DCR, and that would be part of the permit associated with that. Is that the answer?
That's what I confirmed as well. For DCR, there would be a construction access permit. With Mass Audubon, there's a standalone agreement.
Can I also mention that our,
They have their
in terms of the compliance assurance, condition B is our standard condition, as Commissioner Mahoney was pointing out, that requires a project completion self-report by the company that 90 days after the project has gone into service, that they essentially attest that they have complied with all conditions, and if not, to identify where they've fallen short. So it is self-reporting. It's not that we're necessarily getting verification, say, from Mass Audubon or DCR, but we believe that to be a reasonable mechanism to ensure that the conditions are followed.
Separate topic, the company has identified there's, I think, 20 megawatts worth of clean energy projects that will be enabled, that the company is aware of, that will be enabled by this project, particularly going from 69 to 115. In addition to those 20 megawatts, is the company aware of the incremental capacity that will be made available by this project? So you know about the 20 megawatts, but you also know this much more is possible.
I don't know that I have the number of megawatts that would be enabled by this, but I do believe that it would be substantially more. Yeah, I do not have the number of additional megawatts of DER that it would permit. However, currently, the interconnection of any additional generation, either renewable or otherwise, would cause overloads, and this will allow additional DER to interconnect beyond, I believe, the initial megawatts that are currently in queue.
And then my last question that maybe we'll set it up for the chair. Do you have an updated cost estimate of the project?
The company is in the process of developing a cost estimate. I don't think it has a formal one that has been issued at this time. However, I can confirm that it will be within the plus or minus 25% of the estimate.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know whether staff can clarify, because I remember, I don't have the document for him, but in reading this morning, I actually thought there was actually a number for the maximum capacity that they could take in additional megawatts. And I believe it was well above 20, but I would like to know that because that was the question I had as well. I think that's important. And I don't know if it's in the filing or not, but if it is, if we could just have that cited.
This is Brian Wilmer with the EFSB staff. We do have a figure for the thermal ratings of the lines, which will be increasing from 43 MVA to 218 MVA, approximately a fourfold increase. And the backlog of the DER from the 3 cluster studies that were done, I believe, was 550 megawatts.
And did it in fact say that actually the line could actually hold that much capacity?
When we asked the question during the evidentiary hearing, the company responded that the project would basically suffice the need for the foreseeable future. And I would assume that includes the DER proposed interconnections.
Okay. And the total again is 550?
550 is the backlog, yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
I'll just say thank you to staff for filling in the gaps here. That this does seem like information the company should be providing, but appreciate you doing so. Have some questions about Chapter 91, if we could switch gears a bit. Sure. So obviously a very long linear project crossing multiple communities. Do you have an estimate for how many waterways, rivers, and streams the project will cost?
I think there's only one significant waterway that it's passing, which is a tributary to the Curly Brook Reservation.
Yeah, I did see that in the tentative decision. We were a bit surprised, I will say, at DEP that only one of those waterways Our estimate is probably about 60 rivers and streams. Was curious if that matched with yours. We were surprised to hear that only one would be jurisdictional under 91. So that does seem like a conversation that we should have with the company. Do you know if 91 licensing process has been started, if there's been a pre-application meeting, where that stands?
Yes, the company has looked into this and believes that it has conclusive documentation that the tributary to the Pearly Brook Reservoir is not navigable and therefore is not jurisdictional under Chapter 91.
Okay, so currently the tentative decision indicates that the Pearly Brook tributary would require a Chapter 91 license. Does the company disagree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Was that issue raised in the company's comment letter or as a proposed amendment to the tentative decision?
No, it wasn't. I think the language was, perhaps we should have, but the company did not state that a license would be required. In the FEIR, it says that that the company would coordinate with Mass DEP waterways programs on this issue.
Okay, so I'm looking at the language in the tentative decision, which I can find so others can take a look as well.
I believe that's page 40.
The bottom of page 40 indicates that the company stated that a Chapter 91 license would be required for project work situated in the Pearly Brook tributary.
I understand that.
Mhm.
We believe that that is incorrect, that the company did not state that a license would be required.
Well, just the normal process would be for you to provide that in a document prior to the hearing if there was a mistake in the tentative decision. It sounds like you think there is a mistake in the tentative decision.
In that regard, yes.
Mhm.
There's also language on page 41 that seems similar. It doesn't attribute it to the company in this instance, but it does state that for work related to the Pearly Brook tributary, which would require a Chapter 91 license, company would coordinate with Mass DEP to obtain the license.
Understood that we do not agree with that. We will, and the company has coordinated with Mass DEP waterways program, but its determination has been that it's not navigable. Therefore not jurisdiction. And the company is certainly willing to have further discussions with the waterways, and if the siting board would like to make that a condition of the decision, that would certainly be satisfactory.
Thank you. When you say it has made the determination that the waterway is not navigable,
Yes.
the waterways program or the company has made that determination? Okay.
And where are you in the process with the waterways DEP team?
I don't know that I don't know that discussions have concluded on that or if they're ongoing.
Have they started?
I think the company is a ways back has had discussions with DEP waterways on the project in general.
Okay, well, perhaps as we proceed through further questioning, folks from the company and your council can work on proposed condition language. And we should think about whether we want to make any amendments to the tentative decision if there's a disagreement about licensing needs. Thank you.
Does staff want to respond?
Yes, please. We note that the citation on the bottom of page 40 for that statement regarding the Pearly Brook tributary came from the company's FEIR, which is what that citation is right there. That record request is the company's FEIR. If there has been an update since that FEIR I do not believe we have it on the record, but that's where that information came from, was the company's FEIR.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify that that came from the secretary's certificate on the FEIR, not the FEIR itself.
Thank you. Yes, you're correct.
So it sounds like at some point, when you filed with the EFSB and when you had the hearing and when you filed at MIPA, there was a general agreement that Chapter 91 would be required. Since then, somebody has determined in the company that maybe that is not the case and that we need to go back and relook at that.
I believe that's correct. I'm not sure that the company had determined at that time that it would be needed, but just that it needed to be looked at.
Well, somebody at MIPA thought that it was required, right? They wouldn't put it in their certificate if they didn't think so. So I think you need to talk also to the MIPA office about that. Okay.
Commissioner O'Shea was raising his hand.
Commissioner O'Shea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question, and this is really, maybe I could have asked the staff, but I think the company maybe can respond. In figure 3 of page 19 of the tentative decision, it had a diagram of the existing poles and lattice structure and then the new monopoles, and it showed a height difference of 31 feet versus the 5.5 feet. So I'm a little confused what the actual increase in height is.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So I just want to provide clarification for the height difference that I had specifically cited to. The height difference was between a rebuild option for a 69 kilovolt rebuild option versus a 115 rebuild option. So the difference in rebuild options was 5.5 feet, not the existing structures related to the new structure option. So
Okay.
that's the distinction for the 5.5 feet. Those are different numbers.
Okay, so versus the existing, it's a 31-foot increase, which I understand that would have then obviously benefits in terms of minimizing vegetation interference, and obviously moving to a monopole structure will help with reducing avian attraction, but they are higher transmission lines. So I'm just curious if the company had thoughts on how they would address bird collisions with a higher transmission line.
I think the higher transmission lines will actually reduce aviation from bird-related incidences. The taller structures are needed to ensure that the existing and the new structures and the proposed structures and conductors maintain appropriate clearances. There will be a shield wire and other features that will reduce strikes from lightning and bird activity.
Okay, and then lastly, is that sort of a standard height now for replacement?
I don't know that it's a standard height. As I said, it's the appropriate height in this particular situation due to the need to keep the existing structures and build the replacement structures.
Maybe you can tell us how it compares to some recent large transmission lines that have been erected by the company.
I don't have that information. I can confirm with my colleagues.
Ms. Matthews, can we bother you for a moment? That's all right. Can you give us a sense of, in terms of the height of this project, how that sort of compares to other projects that you've done recently? Is this sort of a standard kind of height, or is this higher than normal, or whatever?
Recognizing that I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
Understood.
Understood.
This project was designed to 115 kV standards. And so it would be, to the best of my knowledge, similar in height to our other 115 kV projects. It's obviously taller than many of our existing 69 kV structure lines. Am trying to remember. It is possible that it's that they are on the higher side for 115 kV structures because of the narrowness of the right of way. But as I said, I'm not an engineer,
Understood.
but similar to 115 kV projects. And I'm not going to see if any of those beeps are our engineer actually.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, thank you very much.
Other questions, Commissioner O'Shea?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? I just have a couple of questions. On the cost issue. So having worked in this field for quite some time, you and I both know that these projects often have cost overruns and significant cost overruns. And I'm wondering whether what will happen in terms of oversight with respect to the cost of this project. Like, who is watching the pocketbook? Like, what if the project is starting to cost 30% more than you thought it was going to? What happens?
You know, as mentioned before, there's one of the conditions is to file a post-construction compliance report. And I think that would be an appropriate place to update the board about what the actual costs were compared to the projected costs.
I mean, I think this gets to many people's concern in this region about these asset condition projects. I mean, finding out after the project is completed that it's 30% over the original cost is not helpful. Like, it's a report, but it's not helping cutting costs. And there's nobody watching the shop, to be honest, right now, because there's nobody who are watching these asset condition projects and making sure that they don't go over. And that's why the region has been so, and the companies have been helpful on this and thinking about how we can change this process, because these projects are the fastest growing projects in every single company, transmission companies to docket. This is what people are doing. They're replacing their old lines. And there's nobody who is watching those construction costs except for the company. So I'm just, again, concerned, as I am with every single one of these asset condition projects, that there is a likelihood of cost overruns and that people that are simply going to then be charged to customers, flow through to customers, and with no oversight at all. Is there any, I don't think that there is, but is there anything that you could suggest to the board that would alleviate some concerns about not finding out about cost overruns until the very end of the project, until it's over?
In many siting board decisions, there is a condition that requires the company to submit on a semi-annual basis dated cost estimate, indicating whether there have been increases or decreases since the cost estimate. I note that there was not such a condition in this case, and I think the company would find such a condition to be reasonable.
Thank you. I mean, of course, unless the siting board has some authority to do something about that, and I mean, do you believe it does?
As you know, we are not a rate recovery entity, and we do not have authority either through, FERC has the authority on the regional rates, and the D.P.U has some authority locally. I think we could add the semi-annual reporting requirement into this as an amendment, if you would like. We can come up with that language and add it in. I think the one other somewhat of a constraint is if the board decides to approve this tentative decision, the tentative decision has an explicit condition saying that the company has to build it according to what they told us they were going to build and what the decision says. And the decision right now says plus or minus 25%. So if the company were to go over that plus or minus 25, well, minus we'd be glad, right?
Yeah, right. We'd be all right with
But-
that. We'd be
But
all right
if
with
the
that.
company were to go over that plus 25%, they would need to notify us. Again, we do not have the ability to deny costs, but we could investigate. We could investigate why the company is running over that plus 25% range.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Secretary, can I follow up?
course.
So if we were, let's imagine that the company comes in and says because of tariffs, steel, diesel, et cetera, now the costs exceed 30%. We can investigate, ask more questions, then what?
That's a problem. There is no then. What?
And can we then at least notify, I guess this is under ISO New England or under FERC that actually under the tariff principles. So essentially then I guess we could notify them of our concern, but they would be the actor if any action would be taken. Is that correct?
I think what the region is trying to do and what I think is going to happen is that we're going to have a asset condition oversight person who will be, maybe you guys can explain it better than I can, but as I understand it, that person is going to be working with FERC and with ISO New England to be monitoring cost and to be making sure that people know as time goes on what the costs are and thinking about options for lowering cost. It's just an ongoing concern, and your question is exactly right on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Secretary.
Ms. Matthews.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Deidre Matthews, National Grid. I did, as I suspect, get some text messages from my engineer. She notes that we are generally consistent with the 115 kV design, with the exception of additional height to get over the existing towers. So because we have to keep the A1, B2 lines in service while we build the new A1, B2 lines, there has been a need to elevate to build taller towers to keep it safely above the operational 69 kV lines during construction. Did that make sense?
It does.
And I'm 99.9% sure that that is in the record somewhere.
Got it. You have another question? Chair?
Just coming back to the sort of cost in $2026, just want to confirm that your understanding is that even today, the company is within the 25% envelope, so that sort of give or take, you're looking at a cost that's below $592 million.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Can we take, where are we in this now? What are we going to do next? There are no interveners here, right? Or limited participants. So we're going to take comments from the public. So if you would like to speak and if anyone's here in the room, they can raise their hand. Online, if you could use the raise hand function, that would be helpful.
Not seeing anybody.
Okay. Not seeing any comments from the public. We'll begin deliberations, and I'm going to need a main motion. Do I have a motion to adopt the tentative decision?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we're going to leave that motion on the floor, and we'll vote on it at the end of the deliberations with all the approved amendments. So we're now going to deliberate, and first we'll consider amendments to the tentative decision by staff. And then we will consider any additional amendments from board members. So in terms of Ms. Evans, did you want to say something? In terms of the proposed amendments to tentative decision prepared on June 2nd, 2026, provided by the staff to us, do people have any comments or questions on those or changes to those amendments? We can take a minute.
I guess I would say my read of these amendments is these are updates to the record, changing sort of real-time status of things that have happened since the TD was drafted.
Staff's understanding is that because the permits were issued subsequent to the initial record closing and because information was provided, we wanted to update the TD so that it included current permits as they were issued so that it was as up to date as possible.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. Sorry. Okay, so can I have a motion to adopt the staff amendments as set forth in this document that we received?
So moved.
Second.
I second.
Okay. So do we want to vote on that amendment and then okay, why don't we do that? So can we have a roll call vote on adopting the staff amendments?
Chair McDermott,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Heupel,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Shea,
Yes.
Undersecretary Field,
Yes.
Director Blanchett,
Aye.
and Secretary Tepper.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Okay, so Commissioner Mahoney, did you have, are you thinking of any amendments?
I'm just reflecting back on our conversation about costs. And while I understand reporting might not give us anything new that we really can do, at least if we did add some condition about semi-annual reporting on costs, we would know sooner. I'm not sure how to phrase that, and perhaps staff can help us. But I think I would propose that we include an additional condition about the reporting of costs on an annual basis.
So going from the previous decision that we had issued in Acushnet, there were two conditions that were labeled S and T in that decision. Language would be the siting board directs the companies to submit to the siting board an updated and certified cost estimate for the project prior to the commencement of construction. And a second condition, the siting board directs the companies to file semi-annual compliance reports with the siting board starting within 100 days of the commencement of construction that include projected and actual construction costs and explanations for any discrepancies between project costs, actual costs, and completion dates. I believe that added to the ANF section regarding into the tentative decision regarding costs as well as conditions at the end of the decision would be appropriate.
I think that sounds good.
A quick question on that first condition and that other, the certified costs were filed when?
So it directs the company to submit to the siting board an updated and certified cost estimate prior to the commencement of construction.
Okay, great.
And may I note that those would be, if we wish to add them, they would be conditions L and M.
Okay. All right, so let's vote on those additions. Can we make a motion?
I'd like to move to include those two additional conditions as spelled out by Mr. Tar.
Second.
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Chair McDermott,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Heupel, Commissioner O'Shea,
Yes.
Undersecretary Field,
Yes.
Director Blanchett,
Yes.
Secretary Tepper.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
So I would like to just make sure that we clarify in the tentative decision on page 56, what exactly is the amount that will be the cost of the project that will be regionalized. And if we want to say Massachusetts portion of what will be regionalized, which I think is something like 40-something% or something, we could do that. I just think right now, certainly when I read it, I was like, wait, why is it that Massachusetts is paying up 414 when the total cost is 475? That's how I read it. So I think it just needs to be clarified.
The Massachusetts portion that's referred to in this sentence is the
It's the
construction.
construction,
Yeah,
exactly.
so
It's the amount of the project that will be in Massachusetts. But I didn't get that when I first read it.
right, we could clarify two ways, and maybe it helps belts and suspenders to specify that the construction, I'm bad at line in room, but we could do construction and then also Massachusetts contribution separately.
Could we say the portion of the project located in Massachusetts would cost approximately? And then the next sentence says, it makes the regional recovery point.
Yeah, I think that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you get that? Or do you want to repeat?
Could I read it back to you to make
Yeah,
sure that
absolutely.
we clarified? I would like to note that the next sentence does talk about the total
I know.
project costs and the supplemental response that the company talked about also is in here. So, but we could change that first sentence to state as follows. The company stated that the entire project would cost approximately 474.1 million, while the portion of the project constructed in Massachusetts would cost approximately 14.7 million in 2024 dollars.
Okay. All right. Can we have a vote on that, please?
So moved.
Second.
Chair McDermott,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney.
Yes.
Commissioner Heupel,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Shea.
Yes.
Undersecretary Field,
Yes.
Director Blanchett,
Yes.
Secretary Tepper.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Okay. Commissioner Heupel.
On the Chapter 91 issue, I would propose two edits. The first on page 41, the language that we referenced earlier, that reads for work related to the Pearly Brook tributary, which would require a Chapter 91 license. NEP would coordinate. I'd propose that we change that to for any work that would require a Chapter 91 license. NEP would coordinate. The second related edit that I would propose is to add a condition, which I believe would be condition N, indicating that NEP shall promptly coordinate with the Mass DEP Waterways Program to determine the need for a Chapter 91 license, parens S, and shall promptly apply for any required license, parens S. I, unlike Commissioner Mahoney, love a live line edit.
I know it and I embrace it. It's just, we're different.
Okay. So did everybody get proposed condition N?
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I'm assuming your language, the stenographer got that. I did not, I will write it down quite that quickly. But the citation on page 40, the citation actually at the RC.
Sorry, I didn't hear citation to the.
To on page 40, the bottom of page 40, citation to the FEIR certificate, which is what it says in the FEIR certificate. Do we want to change that sentence at all? Just to use that as a game.
I am not proposing any changes to the language on page 40 because it reflects the FEIR certificate, which we aren't amending at this point. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion. I think you did a motion. A good
So-
one enough. Okay.
So moved.
I second.
Chair McDermott,
Aye.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Aye.
Commissioner Heipel,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Shea,
Yes.
Undersecretary Field,
Yes.
Director Blanchett,
Yes.
Secretary Tepper.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
I have one clarification. This is really not to go in this particular filing, but I think if staff could clarify the 300-foot, what is the basis for that for helicopters and notification? I think for future deliberations, it would be nice to know what that's pegged to in terms of a rationale. I mean, I'm not asking it for this filing, but I think it would be helpful to know. Thank you. Okay.
The 300 feet is, actually comes from a zoning exemption statute on a notice distance on these types of transmission lines. We have to notice either side of the transmission line right away, 300 feet for purposes of our public hearing and that type of thing.
Okay.
So usually for transmission lines, we use a distance of 300 feet from outside, from the edge of the right of way
Otherwise.
outside for most notification requirements and oftentimes for impact requirements for transmission line projects. We
And,
can
and
do
just to be clear, that's 300 either side plus the width of the corridor itself, right?
That's,
Okay.
that's correct. It's
Okay, thank
300 from the edge of the right of way.
Okay.
I have two more, if I may. On page 53 of the tentative decision related to chapter 21E, in the first full sentence, there's a discussion of ensuring that construction activities comply with any restrictions in release tracking numbers. This is just a clarifying proposed edit to add a reference to activities and use limitations associated with release tracking numbers. So that's actually where any restrictions would live. So the proposed edit is to add a reference to activities and use limitations after restrictions. So I'll just read it and folks can react to this. The siting board directs the company to engage a licensed site professional to identify and ensure that all construction activities comply with any restrictions, proposed addition, in activities and use limitations associated with all relevant release tracking numbers. Release.
All right. Do you want to do your second one too?
Sure. My second one is really just to elevate an aspect of the project that I think is relevant to a number of the criteria for our EFSB approval. On page 49 of the tentative decision, there's a footnote that sort of minimizes what really stuck out to me as a tremendous benefit of the project. This is contained in the FEIR certificate, and it notes that the project's net cumulative GHG reduction is 117,424 million tons of CO2 equivalent over 30 years. Again, very relevant to our determination, a number of our criteria. So my suggestion is just that we add that into the text of the TD. And there's a place on page 41. We could just, at the end of the paragraph that ends at the top of page 41, elevate that language into the decision itself as opposed to a footnote. Happy to find that reference if it would be helpful for folks.
I think she is.
I'm sorry, we see footnote 26, which your comment, I think, references.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to move it up, you said, you mean page 51 instead of 41.
I'm on page 49, footnote 26.
Yes.
Where do you want to move it to?
I was suggesting to move it to the end of the paragraph that ends at the top of page 49 that references the interconnection queue. But I'm open to suggestions about where it fits best. That's where the current footnote number is.
I misunderstood you. Thank you for the clarification.
Right.
That's all.
I move for these two changes.
Second,
Chair McDermott,
yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Heipel,
Hi.
Commissioner O'Shea,
Yes.
Undersecretary Field,
Yes.
Director Blanchett,
Yes.
Secretary Tepper.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I still have some concern about the tree clearing. You know, it's a lot of tree clearing. And, you know, I understand about the vegetation issues and I understand about the requirement for the right of way. And I understand that the company is doing some mitigation, I would say some mitigation with respect to that. I'm just wondering if the company could think a little bit more about what else it might do in terms of mitigation for that very large amount of acreage that is going to be cleared. Why don't we take a few minute break, and so the company can consult and then we'll come back. So let's do a 5-minute break. Okay, thank you for a little break there. Are we good on the record? Good, okay. Yeah, thank you. No, it's not a problem. I just want to catch your eye. Okay, so the company had a little opportunity to discuss. Is there anything that you would like to add?
Yes, thank you. Specifically with regard to clearing within wetlands, as we noted before, we have paid or are going to pay 250,000 to DCR and Audubon. But in addition to that, the company has already paid 1.1 million to the Army Corps of Engineers in their in lieu fee program to mitigate for conversion of 9.2 acres of forest.
I'm sorry, a little bit clearer.
Sorry.
For the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yes. In their in lieu fee program to mitigate for conversion of 9.2 acres of forested wetland to scrub shrub. To scrub shrub. So it's those two payments. And I note that the company has made an effort to minimize clearing required throughout the project. And it's, as you know, a very long transmission line over 50 miles. So while there is significant tree clearing, it's necessary on such a long right of way.
My memory is that there's also some requirements in the FEIR with respect to the tree clearing. Am I not right about that?
I think I mentioned those before that that in addition to the compensatory mitigation, the company is going to be planting trees and performing forest-based soil and vegetation restoration measures. I'm not sure what else you're referring to.
This is Nathaniel Strasberg, staff. If I could just add to that, the FEIR certificate does state remedying soil organic carbon loss associated with failing road infrastructure. My apologies.
You could add to that and just do it again.
The FEIR certificate does state remedying soil organic carbon loss associated with failing road infrastructure in Lawton State Forest. It also states providing understory, planting, and nuisance species control in Warwick State Forest to address dying red pine. And it does also mention greening the Gateway Cities program in EJ populations in Athol and Fitchburg, as well as providing that contribution to Mass Audubon's 30 by 30 Catalyst Fund for preservation of forested land under current threat of development.
Could I just add one other point? This is actually included in the tentative decision on page 49, and this comes from the FEIR as well on the trees and the carbon concern. The FEIR included mention of the company committing to donate 1.7% of the trees being taken down to wood banks. And that, wood banks could be ultimately used to provide wood as a fuel to people who use that to heat their homes. It can be used for construction if it's suitable for that purpose. So, 1.7% obviously leaves a little bit of room for expansion, but I realize there, as described in the FEIR, some administrative challenges in trying to actually provide that wood to people who will use it beneficially. And sometimes it's not, and it's just simply left, where essentially cut down to decompose over time, and by the way, release carbon. So, that's the concern, is how much of that wood could actually be reused for a good purpose.
Is there a monetary amount that is associated with the Greening the Gateways program?
Subject to check, I believe that that money would be funded through the payment that the company was making to DCR.
Oh, I thought that it was an additional commitment because DCR doesn't run the Greening the Gateways program.
For DCR receiving that money, what is the intended purpose or receipt of that money for DCR? Do we know? Is it going to a particular fund or program or the like?
I believe that some of the items that Mr. Strasbourg just mentioned is what the money is being paid to DCR is for.
The language on page 49 of the TD suggests that it's DCR work in the Lawton State Forest, understory planting and nuisance species control, greening the gateway cities. So that's the $150,000 to DCR. And then the $100,000 to Mass Audubon presumably goes into their 30 by 30 catalyst fund.
So is there actually, even since in the MEPA certificate, there's a requirement for money going to the greening the gateway cities. Does DCR actually transfer money from you to whoever holds that program?
Actually, I think I might be wrong. I think that they do it in conjunction with EEA. I think I'm wrong on that.
Okay, thank you.
Now that I think about it.
Thank you.
So because that is not additive, right? The Greening the Gateway Cities program is also just part of that $150,000. That's an awful lot of work to try to accomplish $450,000 on a $500 million project. Is there more the company can do there?
I can't make the commitment on behalf of the company without conferring.
Feel free to confer again.
One other thing to point out is that these different mitigation commitments are noted in the FEIR to produce a net reduction in CO2 equivalent emissions of about 380 metric tons, which is a relatively small fraction of the amount that the direct impact would produce. So we're talking probably about a less than 5% mitigation level, even with those commitments, just to put it in context.
Yes, we can go off the record.
Potentially go back and reopen permits, but I don't know what precisely it is that you're requesting at this point and in what context.
Well, sorry.
I can't make a commitment for the project sitting here.
We don't know, right, whether the permitting agencies are all satisfied, given that there's.
Setting aside that issue, we have.
Well, that's
Okay.
that's how you started. So I just want to be clear. I don't know that we are done yet. Yeah.
Setting aside that issue.
Yeah.
We have reached. We have permits subject to the approval of the siting board today from all other permitting agencies. And they have addressed these issues. And can you sort of give us where, in what?
Yes,
What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that this is a significant amount of tree clearing. And it's going to be a significant amount of carbon, emission. And the mitigation that's associated with that here is minimal. And so, one of the things that we're really trying to do going forward is to really think about what does it mean to mitigate, and what does it mean to, do something that is meaningful. And I hear you on the permits, and we're not going to ask you to go redo your star permit or whatever. But it's going to ask you to do that. I guess what we're thinking about is there some more, is there some kind of additional work that you can do to be selective about what you're taking down? Is it some way that you could, does it have to be 100 acre? Does it have to be that wide? Probably yes. But, is there some way to be more selective about it, about the trees? Is there some way to, give massive on another $100,000 in mitigation? It's just, the mitigation here just looks so small compared to what you're doing. And I understand the argument that, yes, we're going to enable new DG. I get that. And I understand that there's going to be offset, et cetera. It's just that when you tell people, when people see 100 acres and that the mitigation is just doesn't feel to me like it's
just the 100 acres is not like clear cut tree clearing. It also includes pruning and trimming and things like that. So I think in that context, it's, not as
100 acres of
Tree clearing will result in 131 acres of permanent impact.
131.
right. But again, that tree clearing is not.
I mean, I wonder if we could be more, I wonder if there's language we can imagine. Oh, sorry. So I wonder. I think the idea of can we be selective clearing, so like smaller understory trees that are really growth, but actually rapidly concentration. That's language to actually be more selective. Also try to minimize that to the greatest possible.
I think we are also working on.
My recollection was when we were talking about the VIR, that there was something to do, some selective.
There's absolutely being selective. And I'm looking at text from both at the moment. Great reflects on the FDIR, like we've done a lot of work with the agency since then. Our forestry person says 100 acres is worst case, as we stated a couple of years ago, particularly since it's a lot of pruning, and there has been maintenance work since then. How about this? How about we
EA will organize to talk about what that's really going to look like in the real world, what you really think you're going to up to date processes that are possible. You know, if there's something more that you can do for the autobahn. Business mitigation.
Understood. As I said, I don't have the authority to make commitments to the project.
Yeah, I got it.
There are people I can call, whether I can reach them at this point, I don't. I do think the tentative decision as it is written reflects where we were with games. Go for the most part, and the substantial amount of work that we have done. And
You could send us a send us an date. Very broad. What additional protection?
the record, all of it.
Yes.
We did have that. That's what's on the staff member sheet that updates.
But when you say that we're further along with it, means
I think that setting aside the question of chapter the project has a federal, state, and local permit that it needs to be a project.
I thought you were telling that you had worked on more mitigation with
Oh,
agencies
I'm
over the last 2 years.
I believe that is actually the case. Because it took us until a couple months ago to reach an agreement with staff. So there has been a lot of work with the agency since it's resulted in.
I mean, if there's more mitigation that's been agreed to, get credit for that. Like, let's put that in the tentative decision.
I think I think everything that's in the record is, in terms of mitigation, is in the record.
Before we go on the record, just back on the record, so we're still in an open meeting, even if off the transcript here. Could you or I could just make a statement about characterizing the discussions off the record so that when we go on the record, just the record, it's the transcript off the record and back up, so the transcript is accurate.
Hi, we're back on the record. Just noting for the meeting minutes that we had a conversation about possible mitigation and the permits that are currently issued by the various agencies for the project. Okay, so let's move on. Is there anything else? Any other amendments or concerns that people have?
Would like to suggest one amendment, just
Please do.
if I could. So in regard to the tree clearing of 100 and how many acres was it? 130? 130. I'd like to add some language just dependent on EA's review of it. It's essentially something effective, and the company will seek to minimize tree. Yes, you bet. Slow down. I'm actually not even from the East Coast and I talk fast. Okay, I think the company will seek to minimize tree clearing through selective pruning and selective cutting to maximize the ongoing carbon sequestration by the forest. Something of that effect as an addition to that language around tree clearing.
I think that's reasonable. It should be what they're doing. And I think this would be, to have a condition on that would be helpful.
Exactly.
Thank you for offering it.
You're welcome.
You want to direct the company.
Yeah, yes, good point. Okay,
I apologize, just to clarify, is that a proposed condition?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. And I'll put it as a motion if staff has the language down and leave it at that.
okay, can anybody have any further comment on that? No, okay, so let's go ahead and vote on that.
Just for the record, I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Chair McDermott,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney.
Yes.
Commissioner Heipel,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Shea,
Yes.
Undersecretary Field,
Yes.
Director Blanchett,
Yes.
Secretary Tepper.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Okay, so any other amendments or modifications to the tentative decision? All right, then I think we are ready for a vote on the tentative decision with the amendments that we have already adopted.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, can we have a
Yep.
roll call vote, please?
Chair McDermott,
Aye.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Heipel,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Shea,
Aye.
Undersecretary Field,
Yes.
Director Blanchett,
Yes.
and Secretary Tepper.
Yes.
Motion is approved and the tentative decision is approved as amended.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to staff for all your hard work on this. Really happy to have this project done and looking forward to the distributed generation that's going to be enabled by the increase to 115 kV. So thank you. Okay, up the record.
We have one more.
Oh, we have one more item. I'm so sorry. We have one more item. Can we move to the second item on our agenda?
Updates.
All right.
I don't have any 12.
All right. As you recall, at our last meeting on May 11th, the board voted to approve the final outstanding regulation required for the new EFSB siting provisions specified in the 2024 Climate Act. Given that we're 1 month from opening day for the new program, we wanted to give staff an opportunity to provide a brief update on where we are on implementation activities. I know that there has been quite a lot of progress made and more work ahead. So we'll ask staff to provide us with some details. And I'll note that this was part of the notice of the hearing. Okay.
So thank you, Secretary Tepper. Myself and Director Green are going to give you a very short overview of where we are right now on implementation of the 2024 Climate Act. I'll start with just regulations. As you know, that all the EFSB regulations are complete. The last regulation will be published this Friday, and that will be those. DWR is complete with their regulations. D.P.U. Will be filing their fee regulation with the Secretary of State this Friday. So that is the end of all the rulemakings. So the next point I wanted to raise is, so now we're starting with the actual detailed implementation. With the help of the director of MEPA, Tori Kim, and Veena Damaraj, we are starting to have meetings with the state agencies to go through the details of the various permits that the siting board will be issuing. We really appreciate their help on getting this, their leadership, really getting this moving. We're establishing, information on permits, information flow, what needs to go into the siting portal, which Andy will talk about in a moment. And it's actually very interesting to see this all coming together. I will note that we have a couple of large projects from utilities that are already started and going into the pre-filing process. We've already had some pre-filing meetings, which we've been able to attend. And it's very exciting to see the process actually in action. It is going forward now. I will say that we still need to do a little more outreach to municipalities. DOER has been the lead on the outreach to municipalities, but we will also need to provide some outreach in that area. We do have some presentations scheduled, and we'll schedule more, and Andy's going to go over some of the outreach that we're doing. So, Andy.
Thank you. So just to continue the update on what we're doing on implementation for the new siting program, we're still finishing up some of our guidance documents, and we issued a draft of the common conditions and baseline standards in April, got feedback from various stakeholders in the latter part of April. We're still processing that input. And as General Counsel Evans mentioned, we are conferring also with our sister agencies who also have, quite a significant role in what common conditions would need to be. And that, again, to remind everybody, is a constructive approval related item. So the common conditions would be used in the event of a constructive approval with some modifications through the conditions conference, also as discussed in May. So we're working on that and hope to have a revised draft out fairly soon so that the board can, see a final product at its meeting in July. We haven't locked in a date yet, but it will be towards the end of July, we believe. It will not happen at the end of June board meetings. Again, not announced yet, but we'll most likely be having some of those. So we're also completing a couple of other templates, checklists to make filing easier and sort of more certain for applicants so that they know that they've met all of the requirements and they will be able to get a timely completeness determination. So that product is also in process. I think Joan covered some of the communication issues. We have a lot of communication work to do. Just passing regulations is great, but the public doesn't really pay much attention, we've learned. So we need to produce quite a few different communication products, everything from guidebooks to online resources. We're working with the Office of Environmental Justice and Equity on a series of videos to explain how this all works to everyday people so that they can participate and understand what it's all about. And again, as General Counsel Evans mentioned, some speaking engagements coming up in the immediate future. There's a briefing tomorrow in the legislature on the status of siting overall, both DOER's program, the EFSB portion, as well as the work that's going on at EEA. I see Undersecretary Judge and Power here, so that's where you guys, I think, will be providing updates. And just, a variety of requests coming in now from different groups, municipalities, to come and brief them, have technical sessions, explain how the regs would work for different actual situations that are now becoming clearer in everybody's view. Hiring, another major theme. We need more staff to handle the influx of cases that we're still expecting. And just to put a number on it, we're looking, in the early days of the new program for a wave of battery projects. Those are rumored to be coming in the first few months. So we will be busy. Those are pretty extensive cases, not to mention the transmission projects from utilities and other activities that we've been hearing about. So we need to increase our staff complement, and we are doing that. We have 8 positions that have been posted recently. Some of those are now in final stages of onboarding and recruitment. So we hope to be filling a good number of those very soon, and we'll continue to fill out the organizational chart. Another big development is the information filing portal. We will not be using the D.P.U filing system, hopefully ever, but if we do use it, it will be for a short period of time. The reason I say that, I'm not trying to diss the D.P.U filing system too much, is that it's very labor intensive. It requires administrative processing of every document that's sent by email. So this will provide a more efficient and modern approach for everybody participating to upload their documents and have an easy and very technically savvy kind of sorting process and search capabilities. So this will be just a better system, more modern, and it will also include, as required in the law, a dashboard that tracks different performance metrics so people can keep tabs on, hey, why is this case taking 3 years? I think I heard was the concern. So that shouldn't happen in the future. It won't happen in the future, actually, I can say. And finally, the update on board members. So we are delighted to have some of our new members, Commissioner O'Shea and Director Blanchette, representing Commissioner Goldstein. We have a few other public member slots that we are also in the process of adding those board members, and hopefully we will be seeing them in the near future. So that's where we are right now on some of our major implementation activities, and we're very excited. We will be busy. We've gotten to this stage, which is an important stage of having our regs done, but that's just the beginning, not the end.
Well, thank you so much for that update and look forward to seeing all the new action that's happening in the board and good luck on the hiring. We know how important that is. So thank you for the update and we'll look forward to hearing more. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Hate to do a roll call for something this obvious. Chair McDermott,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Aye.
Commissioner Heipel,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Shea,
Yes.
Undersecretary Field,
Yes.
Director Blanchett,
Yes.
Secretary Tepper.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Right. Thank you. All right.
Off the record.
Your estimates are good.
Yeah.
New or old?
Yeah.
Well, it's improved. It's better than it was. It's a lot better. But now that it's-